I mean, think about the human body for just a second. It is, without a doubt, an incredibly advanced, finely tuned engine. Normally, when the fuel gauge gets low, it sends out a really simple, clear signal, hunger, telling you exactly what it needs to keep the gears turning and the factory humming along. But what actually happens when that highly sophisticated internal warning system completely breaks down? And more importantly, what happens when this finely tuned engine starts desperately craving things that aren't fuel at all?
Welcome to this explainer. Today we're exploring a deeply misunderstood condition known as Pica. We're going to look at the human body as a complex factory system and uncover exactly what happens when the wires get crossed, causing the machinery to demand raw materials that are, well, completely inedible. And what's wild is that this isn't just some rare modern anomaly. It's a condition that has fascinated doctors for centuries, literally appearing in medical texts all the way back to ancient Greece. What researchers have discovered about how our internal sensors malfunction is honestly truly fascinating.
Okay, let's dive right into our roadmap for today. First, we'll be decoding the Pica diagnosis. Then, we'll look at the dangers of untreated symptoms, explore the root causes and cravings, and finally, chart the path to healing. All right, Section 1. Decoding the Pica diagnosis, the inspector's manual. Right off the bat, Pica is an official feeding and eating disorder with a very specific medical classification, ICD-10 code F50.83. It involves the persistent eating of non-food, non-nutritive substances. Now, what's absolutely crucial to understand here is that this is a documented medical misfiring. For a long time, society kind of just dismissed these behaviors as bizarre quirks or simple bad habits, but modern medicine recognizes this as a very real condition, where the body's complex craving mechanism is malfunctioning. It is not a personal failing, and it certainly isn't a lack of willpower. The brain is quite literally sending urgent, misdirected orders down to the factory floor. So how do doctors actually diagnose this? Well, they use a strict clinical inspector's checklist to make sure they're identifying a true system error. To meet the clinical definition of Pica, this pattern of eating must continue for at least 1 month. So it can't just be a one-off event born of sudden curiosity. The substance being consumed must also have absolutely zero nutritional value. We're talking about things that provide no caloric or vitamin input whatsoever. Furthermore, the behavior has to be developmentally inappropriate. You know, a 6-month-old baby putting a wooden block in their mouth, that's just exploring the world. But an adult feeling a compulsive drive to eat a piece of chalk, that's a diagnostic marker. And finally, the practice cannot be part of a broader cultural or social norm. Only when all of these conditions are met does a physician diagnose a genuine system malfunction. Now, what's really interesting here is how Pica takes on different forms depending on what exact materials the body is desperately searching for. Take pagophagia, for example, the compulsive eating of ice. Imagine someone craving an entire bucket of ice cubes, just crunching through them one after another. This is actually quite common in adults and is heavily linked to iron deficiency anemia. Then there's geophagia, which is the eating of earth, soil, or clay. Historically, some people have consumed certain clays attempting to soothe upset stomachs, but doing so compulsively introduces incredibly high risks of ingesting parasites and causing severe digestive blockages. And then we have amylophagia, which involves eating raw starch, like cornstarch or even laundry starch, straight from the box. That can severely disrupt blood sugar and cause major nutritional imbalances. Each of these specific cravings introduces totally different, severe risks to the body's internal machinery.
Moving on to Section 2, the dangers of untreated symptoms, putting rocks in the machine. Your body is designed to seamlessly process nutritious foods, extracting that high-grade fuel and discarding the waste in a smooth, highly efficient chemical and mechanical process. The stomach acids break down organic matter, and the intestines absorb the building blocks. But when foreign objects are introduced, things like dirt, paper, chalk, soap, hair, or paint chips, it puts immense mechanical and chemical stress on a system that was simply never designed to handle them. You are essentially throwing a wrench, or a literal handful of rocks, straight into the factory's delicate gears. Because the stomach acids cannot dissolve these objects, they have to physically force their way through the entire plumbing system.
And when those gears jam, the consequences are honestly pretty stark. Because the body cannot safely process these non-food items, untreated Pica can lead to severe toxic exposure. For instance, older paint chips actually have a slightly sweet taste, which is why they're sometimes consumed, but doing so can result in massive lead poisoning that causes permanent neurological damage. The physical presence of clumped dirt, clay, or hair can cause massive digestive blockages, which sometimes require emergency surgery, as well as dangerous intestinal tears and infections. Even eating hard substances like ice causes severe, irreversible dental damage, basically wearing away the enamel entirely over time.
And beyond the physical toll, there is a profound psychological breakdown. People experiencing this often feel deep emotional shame and isolation, hiding these intense cravings in secret just out of pure fear of judgment.
Section 3. Root causes and cravings. Why the sensors fail.
So why does this happen? Often, the craving is literally just your engine desperately sounding the alarm for missing raw materials. Pica is heavily linked to severe deficiencies in essential nutrients, with iron and zinc being the primary culprits. Imagine a factory that is running completely out of a vital building material needed to make red blood cells. The whole system just goes into absolute panic mode. The intense cravings for things like dirt or a freezing cube of ice are essentially the body's clumsy, misdirected attempt to correct that internal deficiency. It's actually amazing that in many clinical cases, once a medical team steps in and simply corrects the iron or zinc shortage, those overwhelming cravings for non-food items can completely vanish.
But of course, human bodies are complicated, right? There's rarely just one single cause. It's a complex web of intersecting triggers. While nutritional deficiencies are a massive factor, pica is also well recognized during pregnancy. Think of pregnancy as the ultimate factory expansion, where the body's nutritional demands shift wildly and suddenly, sometimes causing the internal sensors to glitch out. It's also seen in individuals with intellectual or developmental differences. But we also really have to look closely at the software of the brain. Mental health conditions play a huge role. Pica frequently occurs alongside high anxiety, obsessive-compulsive patterns, and periods of severe life stress. In these cases, the rhythmic chewing of ice or the specific texture of chalk actually becomes a self-soothing habit. It's an anxiety-reducing loop that sticks around in the software long after any original nutritional trigger has been resolved.
And that brings us to Section 4, the path to healing, the comprehensive reboot.
Because the causes are so varied, treating pica requires a highly coordinated approach by a specialized medical mechanics team. Step 1 is the medical and nutritional workup. A physician and a registered dietitian evaluate the baseline, checking the engine's oil, so to speak. They'll run blood panels for iron or zinc deficiencies and image the digestive tract to check for any silent damage or blockages caused by the foreign objects. Step 2 is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. This is where the team works on rewiring the software. CBT helps a person identify the deep-seated feelings, anxieties, and situations connected to their pica. It actively builds new, safe coping skills to replace the dangerous behavior. And finally, Step 3 is ongoing monitoring and support, routine maintenance, which might involve family education, dietary adjustments, and continuous holistic support to ensure the factory keeps running smoothly over the long haul.
A truly vital part of this multi-step treatment plan is integrated repair. You see, treating pica on its own without addressing co-occurring anxiety or OCD makes the system highly vulnerable to a total relapse. Think about it. You can't just fix one gauge on the dashboard and completely ignore the sparking control board right next to it, right? If a doctor only prescribes iron supplements to correct a deficiency, but totally ignores the intense obsessive anxiety that has driven the self-soothing habit for years, that behavior is incredibly likely to return the second a stressful life event hits. Integrating mental health treatment simultaneously with medical and nutritional care is absolutely essential for a stable, lasting recovery.
The experts at Eating Disorder Solutions put this perfectly. They say, pica is not a matter of willpower or a bad habit to be scolded away. It often reflects an underlying nutritional, medical, or mental health issue that deserves care. And this is such a crucial shift in perspective. If you notice these behaviors in someone you care about, the response has to be one of empathy and concern, never judgment or scolding. It's a genuine medical misfiring, and thankfully, it's a highly treatable one with the right specialized evidence-based care.
So I want to leave you with a question. How can we change the way we support those struggling with misunderstood medical conditions in secret? I think it starts by realizing that the human body is an incredibly complex system that sometimes simply misfires under the weight of missing raw materials or overwhelming stress. When we replace stigma with curiosity, remove the shame entirely, and look closely at the underlying science, we open the door to true healing and understanding. Thanks so much for joining this explainer.